Hello everybody, and welcome to the Tyrannical Borders showcase video, where in this video I'm going to show you the general ins and outs of all of the functions in this data pack. Well, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to basically simulate starting a new world. When you start a new world, you're going to want to make sure that the data pack is set with the options you want before you start the world, and you want to make sure it's enabled so that when you start, it's instantly going to be operational. Otherwise, you might have to use commands like operator commands to make sure the pack is running. So this is just an important first step here. If you want to know more about the options, I'd go watch my options video, but I will be showing a little bit about how to set the options at the end of this video. So let's start off by simulating me starting in the world with these command blocks. And I'll just do that by pressing this button. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to move out of the way, because right where you were standing when you started the world, it's going to spawn a tree. You can see here. And the tree always gives you one dirt at least. So if you're in a desert with no dirt, you still have one. And it's going to be a pretty big tree. So you'll pretty much always get a sapling out of it. This is just to prevent you from having to restart the world like, old Skyblock stuff. It can be pretty annoying. So I'm just going to get rid of this tree here. Because it's kind of annoying me. But that being said, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get these items here. So 8 smooth stone, well, just regular stone, and a hopper on the inside. And if you do that crafting recipe, it could be in a regular crafting table, doesn't have to be an auto crafter. Then you can place it down on the ground. And if you activate your hitboxes, you can see it does have one. And if you punch it in the hitbox, right, and you don't need your hitboxes active, right? But if you place it down, you can break it. You can grab an item. Say I have some iron here. I'll get these for later. Then you can see it says 307 of 307. And you might have also noticed that there is now a progress bar up top here. And it says size 16. Size refers to how big the world border is in like across. So 16 means you've got 8 blocks this way and 8 blocks this way, right? So when you throw this iron into the well, and it says it has 307, that means that I should have 7 more than is required to expand the border. So let's throw this in and see what happens. There we go. I've got 7 of 305 now, and my size is 18. That means the world border is expanded, and it's done so by 2 blocks. If I throw in another iron here, and 1 more, then you'll see that it goes up by another 2 blocks. If I right click the well again with this iron, you'll see it says 277 of 307. This is due to a mechanic called item depreciation. And basically, all it means is that every time I throw in an iron here, so it's at 277, I throw in 1 more, it's now at 267, right? It's going to decrease in value each time. But if I set the time to night here, and then I go to sleep, so let's do that one more time, 267. I go to sleep, I'll wake up in the morning. And when it's morning, every time, at this time, it's going to go back up to 307. It might take a second after you wake up, but it shouldn't take more than, like a couple, like just 1 or 2 seconds. It shouldn't take too long. It's also worth noting that if you get a daylight sensor, it'll always output a signal strength of 8 at the time where the reset will have occurred. So you can use that with machines or whatever, so that when you want to throw in a stack of items into here, you'll know they'll be at full value. Because that's another mechanic as well. If I throw in a full stack of iron, or 60 in this case, or 64, who cares really? It's going to give me the full value of that 64 stack of iron, and then it'll depreciate it. So it's at 1 now, but that was 64 times 307 BP that just got added to the progress bar. So you want to throw items in here in stacks if you have item depreciation enabled. Again, you can disable it through the options, or you can change how much it is worth. So currently it's set to 10 on the standard rules. On harder rule sets, it could be set to like 100, or I think even 1,000. Or was it 10,000? I can't remember. If you're playing on Giga Chad difficulty, you tell me. But if you're playing on Explorer difficulty, then you won't have any item depreciation, and you don't have to worry about this. Alright, so the next mechanic, or 2 mechanics really. If you type in /trigger and then TB, you'll get a list of the data commands that you can get through my data pack, or just the commands in general. So there's 3 here, and I'll do 2 right now, and I'll do the third one later. The first one is TB HUD. If you do that, it'll tell you it's turned off the TB HUD, and up there where the progress bar was, it went away. So if you want to get that off your screen, you can just by typing in /trigger TB HUD. The second one is TB data, and this is the extra useful border data that you can get access to through this data pack. And so you can see it'll tell you what expansion number you're on. So I've expanded the border a total of 23 times. It gives me 2 blocks of expansion every time I expand the border. It's got this mechanic saying netherite in the well, and I'll get to that in a second. It's also got border center, x -66, z +21. And that just tells you where the center of the world border is, so if you ever want to know that information, it's just there in the useful border data. There's another mechanic called ramp up, and this is basically something that makes the data pack very, very difficult once you hit a certain border size, and the border size is 500. So once you pass 500 border size, it's going to start using an exponential curve to calculate how much BP you're going to need, which means that you'll cap out really quick, and you'll see that a little bit later here. But first, I want to show you the netherite in the well. So if I grab some netherite here, and you see it says 0 of 1 there. So if I throw in this netherite, it says now the world border now expands by 3 per expansion. And you can see it reflects that here. It does take a second to update sometimes. It says 0 of 2. If I throw in another netherite here, instead of making it expand the border more, you can see it actually just went to 1 of 2. Now if I throw in another one, now it changes how much the world border expands. And now it's going to take 3, so I'll throw 3 in there, and then 4. And now it says it's expanding by 6 per expansion. So if I come over to the world border here, and if you look up here, this should go from 62 to 68 when I have 2000 BP in the boss bar. And it's kind of a little bit goofed up here, but it'll fix itself in a second when I throw in some items. So let's just get myself a gold ingot. This should be right around how much I need. Yeah, 2,400. So I'll throw this in here. Boom. Now it goes up by 68. And you can see that it's gone up by 3 blocks in this direction. And it'll have gone up by 3 blocks in that direction too. All right, well, so now you know how the netherite works. And you can say, for instance, throw in a bunch of diamonds or diamond blocks. Let's get the diamond blocks. And this will show you the ramp up. So I throw that in there, and it's going up quite a bit. But you can see ramp up is now adding 282 BP to the top. Well, if I throw in another stack of diamonds, and another stack, and another stack, and another stack, you can see it's quickly adding up, because this one's going to go up very fast at a certain point. And so now it's adding 122,000 to this number up at the top. So I'll keep throwing in, and you can see it kind of caps out how much you can throw in, because getting 1 million BP is quite difficult. On some difficulties, you can't get higher than 1 million BP as your total output in the first place. So let's throw in a few more diamond blocks just to illustrate how brutal the ramp up can get. And then now I'll show you one more mechanic, which is proportional items. So if I grab pottery shards or music discs, there's a couple of items like this. I'll also use, for instance, the trident is a proportional item. And so are things like trial keys. So I'll grab this and that. And so if you right click on the well with one of these items, you'll see it says 300% of 300%. And when it says 300%, that means 300% of this number right here. So it's not going to give you a full 3 expansions. It's going to give you close to 3 full expansions. So if I throw this in here, I should see this go up from either, go up by either 12 or 18, because I've got 6 blocks per expansion. So 12 plus 36 is 48. So that's what we should see in the last 2 digits there. Or perhaps 60. Or I mean 54. That's what I meant. I'm good at math, I swear. So this one did give me 3 full expansions, but you'll see this had gone down just by a little bit, because I didn't actually get a full 300%. I got just a little bit under. But then you got things like trial keys, which are worth 15%. Music discs are worth 5%. Trident is worth 200%, which means that if you have like a trident farm built, then you can actually like expand the border regardless. And same goes for like trial farms, because breeze rods and stuff are also worth percentage, but you'll have to just kind of look through that. Um, Anyways, so this brings to another mechanic, because most of the percentage items are either items that you cannot farm or that are really difficult to farm. Or if you can farm them, you barely get anything out of them, right? So this isn't going to be your main means of expanding the border. Instead, it's going to be getting netherite, probably, depending on the kind of player you are, getting netherite and throwing it into the well. So say you're at this point where you've gotten the border out to 1754. On most worlds, this won't be enough to get you to the stronghold. So you'll grind out some netherite, say like about half a stack. Let's say half a stack, you know. Um, and then I come back here and I build the second item that you can make in this data pack. And this is called the border focus, and it's crafted like so, which I know it's a difficult recipe and it's meant to be difficult. Okay, so I'll press that. And then I will come over here and I will place it down on the ground and I will hold right click on it. Now, it should be noted that if you try and place a second one, it won't work. It won't let you. You can only have one of these down in the world at a time. You can cancel its use by left clicking it, or you can use it by holding right click until this pearl goes fast enough that it resets your world border. And it'll reset everything except for how much netherite you've thrown in the well. So I've gone back to my starting progress with my starting size, but now when I throw in, say, just a couple of gold stacks here, so say you have a gold farm active, and I just throw in a couple of these, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks of gold blocks. That's not really much for if you've got a gold farm running like all the time, right? And it's already gone up to 1696, and I'm only at 103,000 BP, right? So I'm at the same point I was before, pretty much, except I've used way less BP to do it. I can throw in a couple more gold blocks here, and you can see it goes up. Now, ramp up will really, hurt you, basically. And if you want it to be easier, you can go through the options. Again, I'll have a whole video on how to set the options. This is just how I'm going to be playing the data pack myself. And so this is what I've set the default options to. But you don't have to play it this difficult. You can turn down the ramp up. You can turn down a whole bunch of options. So I really suggest you go see what all the options do. And even if you don't want to do that, at least stick around to the end of the video where I'll show you the presets. Now, one option that I will show here is one for actually moving the world border. And so I'll get that command up real quick. Alright, so this is the command that you'll want to run if you want to enable this option. And if you were playing on single player, I would suggest having this on by default, but I have it set to off because if you're playing on multiplayer, you don't really want the average Joe Blow to be able to do this. And so what it does is if I place the border focus over here this time, and I do time set day because I'm recording here game, and I use this, boom. Now the world border will actually be centered around where the border focus was instead of back to its default position. And if I turn this option off now, and I try and use this, it'll keep the border in place. So what this means is basically if you're the server admin, you can quickly enable this by setting it to 1, and then you can move the border, right? And you would want to be like have the whole server aware of what you're doing, right? If you wanted to move the border. And you could actually move the border like this, and then when you're done moving the border, then set it back to 0. And that way other people can still use this. So if there's a bunch of netherite in the well, then they can still use it. And yeah, it'll be fine. So there is one more mechanic with the Well of Sacrifice that I should show you. And this is probably going to be the main means you use to get outside the world border. And that's with enchanted golden apples, which you'll find occasionally in your travels throughout the world. And again, if you right click, it won't do anything because this is a special item. If I throw it in there, boom, the border's actually completely disabled. You can go anywhere in the world, which means that if you know that there is a biome out somewhere, or maybe you saw like a village out there or something, and you have like a golden apple, and you know it's the start of the game. I don't know how you get an enchanted golden apple that early, but if you did, good luck or good stuff. You know, but like maybe you see something out in the distance, or maybe you've got the world seed in chunk base and you know where a biome is and you want to go to it real quick, you can do that. And you can interact with stuff out here and all of that. Where did I put that well of sacrifice? Let me just go back over here real quick. All right, so this is to show you the next mechanic as well, which is if I throw in a second one, it's not just going to reset this, it's actually going to add a whole extra 15 minutes onto the timer. So it starts at 15 minutes. Now, since I've been probably having it active for one, I've got probably about 29 minutes remaining. So I can go out here, I can do stuff, and all of that good stuff. And so this leads me to the last trigger command that any player has access to. If you're walking around out here and say you've been in a cave or digging a hole or something, and boom, the world border's active. You can't get out anymore. And there's no way to without flight or elytra or something, you just are stuck. And so the only way to get out of this is to die. Or you can type in /trigger, and any player, op or not op, can use this. /trigger TB fix position. This works in any dimension, and it tells you you're teleporting to the center in the overworld. And after a few moments, you'll get teleported right back to the center. So this is like if you haven't moved the world border, this is where the tree spawned. And you also can't use this command from inside the world border. So basically, it's just a debug tool. There is an option to enable it if you want to just have access to this command, because I know it is convenient, and it is perhaps something that I might even play with myself, but it does feel a little bit cheaty if, you're down in a cave doing whatever over here, and then you're like, oh, I want to get back up to the top, trigger fix position, then you just get a free teleport, right? So that's basically it for the showcase of this. I would highly ask you to send me any bug reports you have while playing the game. If there's something not working as intended, I would like to know it. Leave it in the comments of this video, and I'll do my best to fix it. Other than that, if you're having issues, there's a chance that you can fix it with options. So if you're, say, having issues with this data thing over here, then you can go check the TB options video, and you can perhaps change it so that it works for you instead of against you. All right. Well, with that being said, I will actually show you the little bit of the option snippet for this video. All right, so to work with the options, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to locate your data pack here. So here is mine, and go into Tyrannical Borders, Data, T-Borders, Function, and then down here in Options. You're going to double click on this, and it's going to open up the text document. Now, if you've worked with data packs before, you might have this here, and this is just like a text editor basically, but really fancy for coders, and it'll color code everything. But if you don't have this, then you can just use a notepad, and that's what I'll be using for this, because I'm expecting most of you to not have that. So what you can do is just at the top of the options here, you'll see this little section with all these lines, and you can kind of just check this box here, and you see here it says option presets and then name of difficulty, and that's how you can check what the presets are. So you got standard here, you've got explorer, you've got light factory, heavy factory, giga chad, explorer challenge, and fixed borders. So just a really quick description of all of them. The first one, standard, is just what I did the showcase on. It's how I'm going to play the data pack, basically. Explorer is basically, I want to say it's the easy mode, but really it depends on the kind of player you are. If you don't really want to build iron farms, gold farms, every farm known to mankind, and grind for a ton of netherite, Explorer is basically it's the version for you. If you're playing on a big server, then like that's why I'm playing on standard, because I'm not gonna, like, when I'm playing it, I'm gonna have like 5 or 6 people grinding netherite. It won't just be me, right? Um, and so like I understand it's steep, but it's also balanced around a lot of players, right? With Explorer, it's really just balanced around you going through the world, maybe farming a little bit of stuff, but really not building any heavy duty farms, right? And so it's going to be a much easier difficulty. And so I suggest if you're just looking for like having a world border in your world, then Explorer might be the one for you. Light Factory is more akin to the old Expanding Borders data pack that I made. And same with Heavy Factory. The differences between them are fairly minimal. Just that with Heavy Factory, you're going to need to have a bigger BP output. It caps the BP at, I think, 2 million, where Light Factory caps it at 1 million per expansion. GigaChad is like the absolute most terrifying section that you could choose. Um, I don't recommend picking it unless you are a Giga Chad at Minecraft and you can build every farm known to mankind and also grind for a ton of netherite. Um, I suspect as well at some point playing Giga Chad, you might be interested in making a world eating machine that can automatically get netherite for you, because that's just the kind of difficulty setting it's on. Explorer Challenge is basically Explorer, except it starts you off in a 4 wide border. Um, yeah, that's all there is to it. It can be a very difficult early game with a not so punishing late game, or actually the least punishing late game. Fixed borders, it starts you off with a border size of 32, but you cannot expand the world border at all until you hit netherite, in which case you can start expanding the world border. This could be fun if you want a really, really fun early game challenge with a pretty punishing late game as well. If you want to basically get some kind of mix between these, you'll have to watch the options video. But in the meantime, all you have to do to select one. So say you want to select Explorer, right? All you got to do is you got to find this pound key here, and you got to remove it. And then you got to save it. So Control S or just save like that, right? So I've got this line here, and it's Explorer, and it's got no pound key. So I save it, I close it, and then you boot up your Minecraft world. Now again, I've already got the world running here, and if you've got the same thing, you'll have to run a few sets of commands, and it's going to totally reset your progress, right? So you can't change all the options mid-game. Some of them you can, some of them you can't. And so if you are in the middle of the game, you know, I won't press the button this time to simulate it. I'll just show you the commands. You're going to have to do function, tborders, and then reset pack, right? And it should autofill for you. You will need a colon as well there in between tborders and reset pack. And then what that's going to do is it's going to completely remove the world border. It's going to remove everything about the pack. And then after this, you type in reload. And then boom. After you type /reload, it'll reinitialize the data pack. And this time you can see it says options preset explorer. The BP is 200. I almost got hit by my own starting tree, like I said not to. But yeah, this is the Explorer difficulty. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoy the data pack, I hope you play it. And remember, give me the bug reports. I want them. I want them all. And I'll see you guys in the options video. Bye-bye.